I am Ray, and if you think that you have to get rid of your ego, well, it's time to think again. Because without ego, you will end up like Eckhart Tolle did, sitting on park benches for 3 years in complete bliss and divine joy. Well, now that you think of it, doesn't sound that bad. You see, if you truly have your ego destroyed, you will probably no longer be able to function in society. You will have people taking care of you, like as the followers of the great saints took care of them. Now that I think of it, forget you ever saw this video. The spiritual teacher Ram Dass once talked about his teacher Maharaji, which people used to call Crackhead Baba. No, not Crackhead Baba, Crackpot Baba. Because he would dance naked with broken pots of clay on his head. When there is no ego, you essentially drown in the divine joy of God. You become drunk with God's divine bliss. I read one time a critic of Ramana Maharshi, the great Hindu saint. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he basically said that in his ashram, the people who were around him were doing shady things, and his ashram was kind of falling apart. But Ramana Maharshi did nothing. Just silence, stillness, peace, joy, bliss. Now, for those who live in ego world, they might think that, oh, well, Ramana Maharshi is irresponsible. He is letting the environment around him go to waste. And this is truly one of the difficult things about the spiritual path, is that it makes living with egos very difficult. And by living with egos, I mean people who identify with their ego. You see, because if you do not have an ego, you will be so immersed in the bliss of God that you will probably not even know what is going on half the time. And it will not matter. This world will mean nothing to you almost, because you will be in heaven. But in order to function in this world with other people, one must have a great big ego, except they must have a soft ego, which means that they aren't so attached to the person they believe themselves to be. They're not obsessed with this character. They recognize themselves as the divine, as the supreme, but they are able to use this vessel in order to live in the world. Now, don't let me stop you from going out into the mountains and living the rest of your days in divine bliss, if that's what you want. But if you are on the spiritual path and also trying to function in this world, you must not kill the ego. You must only realize that the ego is not you. You must use the ego for spiritual practices to reinforce your relationship with the divine, because the ego is what gives us a sense of separation from one another. It gives us the illusion of separation from God, and this allows us to have a relationship with others, with God, with the universe, with nature. And we may have very many beautiful experiences, but what is not so beautiful is those who are deeply rooted in illusion, who believe themselves to be this character, the method actors of this world, who believe they are the character they are playing and don't realize that they are the actor. And you take it one step further in realizing that God is the one divine actor playing an infinite array of these different roles in these different forms. And all of existence is God's divine movie. The good, the ugly, the bad, the evil, the light, the darkness. They say the ego of a normal person is like a stick in a stream of water. The water bends around the stick. But the ego of the enlightened one, or the one who is awakened, we're not talking about the enlightened masters who have completely dissolved their ego. For us normal souls, our ego is like a finger painting in the water. As the finger moves through the water, it creates an indent, but in the same instant, the line is dissolved back into nothingness. There is no lasting impression, and this is what you will experience as you dive deeper on the spiritual path. You won't suddenly begin seeing the unity behind all things. Like if me and you are having a conversation, it might not be so obvious that we are actually one, but we can retain our sense of individuality. And there is nothing wrong with this. But rather, when I speak to you, I am not coming from a place of being a person. And so I don't treat you like a person, but I remain present and allow life to respond to you in whichever way seems necessary. I do not wish to have any preconceived notion of what I want to say or how I want to say it, but life acts spontaneously through you, through me, and the right words are said at the right time in the right way. But when you talk to somebody who identifies as an ego, you can sense the claustrophobia. You can feel the ugliness, almost like they are carrying a rotten fish in their pocket. And it can be quite difficult to be around, because you can just see it's just suffering and suffering and suffering. But when you let go of your identification with the ego, you simultaneously let go of your identification with the one who suffers. And even if pain or difficult situations arise, you do not suffer those experiences. So there's really no need to kill the ego, because you can function perfectly and in harmony and in peace and love and joy, still keeping your sense of individuality. You have dreams, you have aspirations, you have desires, but you are not attached to any of it. But you are completely rooted in the present moment, connected to your true self as pure being, as awareness, as consciousness. And then you play this character to the best of your ability. You live life to the fullest. I am Ray. I encourage you to share your thoughts down below. Much peace and many blessings.